signs in the school zone, but they're supposed to be signs somewhere else?
No, it's just a school zone.
There are new signs in the school zone,
There's, on the street from me.
right? They say
Well-
between the hours of, I don't know, 7 and 4.
So, but the other signs on the street are still 15, so,
There's still 50.
so, we'll stand check on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was
Anything
actually
else?
confused on that whole thing until we discussed it and got it straight, so.
I had one more thing,
Yes.
and actually it's not too much for you. I do wanna say that it was an excellent report.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And also, Mike, that was very good report from you as well.
I like the way that works, these spots are great.
That was great.
Good idea.
I just wanna briefly show you this, some of you guys have seen this before. Sharon and Mickey are working on it, and, I'll get you a final when we get there. What this is columns of years, 2004 to 2014, and it's showing every month and the court docket, income, how much came in through courts, right? Which of course is offsetting a rather large line item over there on the wall. And what we noticed, and we've mentioned this before, between 2010 and 2011, that average dropped by about $70,000 and stayed there. Okay, so we're working on trying to make sure we actually understand it and aren't just guessing. And we've looked at monthly distributions. We've got a list of all the full-time personnel that were there, so we can see if something correlates to that. We're adding the number of tickets and citations by officer, so that'll be a part of the matrix. This will actually rotate and correspond with these columns, but these are the tickets, and we already see that it is the number of tickets per year drops in proportion roughly with that, so right there at 2010, 2011, I think you'll see the change. But I'll get you this report when I'll get the committee this report when it's done. And I just wanna make sure that we're acting on accurate data, not guessing what it is we're trying to fix. But $70,000 suddenly disappearing, we don't understand why. Right?
That
So-
and
Anything else for police? Thank you, April, appreciate it. I don't think there's anyone here from hospital. Do you have anything for that?
I have a pretty late on that.
Okay. If that's all there is, we shall adjourn.
Okay, that gets us to infrastructure. Which is Mona.
who's all on that?
Yeah, Mona.
John, Sunny, and Chuck. Where'd you get that?
Found it in the street.
You ran over 3 times before you picked it up.
I call the infrastructure committee to order and, make a motion to approve our minutes of the last meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. I know that we're waiting to hear from Rob Green here about cemetery, so if we wanna get straight to that, so we can allow him to.
Oh, we're late.
Oh,
There is a need, in my opinion, for revision of section G of the city ordinance pertaining to the regulations and the decorations of the graves. There's a lot of complaints on how we picked up flowers, wreaths of a holiday nature, especially. After Christmas, it's really hard to follow the ordinance the way it says, because we have 15,000 graves up there. I mean, first of all, you're asking us, the ordinance asks us to be a time cop on what's put out there. That's just impossible. We can't do that. By setting certain dates instead of putting 10 days here, and then we got to hold it for 30 days. If we set dates, it takes all the surprise out of everything. I think that's the biggest complaint is people come up there and they say, where are my flowers? Well, then I gotta where we pick it up the middle of January, takes care of the Christmas season. Then you get into Mother's Day, Father's Day, Memorial Day. And then, of course, there's people that decorate their graves on July 4th. That's why I say the second day, we can take care of all of that if we pick them up the fourth of the second Monday in July. Whenever we do this, we, for 2 weeks in advance, we go ahead and get a hold of the newspaper, we put an ad in the newspaper, and, let the radio stations know. So everybody knows, those are the days for cemetery cleanup. And I think it'll do away with a lot of confusion and a lot of heartbreak. That's all I have on the cemetery as far as that ordinance goes.
Do you think some kind of signage or something would be helpful?
It'll have to have that, and it'll have to be notified in the paper for a while.
Right.
You're stepping on eggshells here, son, because people are pretty concerned about that. So you're gonna have to give them a lot of notice and beat it into them before you put it into effect.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
this is actually quite liberal than what we have in place
Yeah.
now.
This is-
I'm not opposed to it.
This is
It
incredible.
just has to be
Yes, it's
advertised,
incredibly
and put out
liberal.
there, and
But all
we're
the
going to
other
put this in
sections-
effect, effective,
I think it's a great.
whatever.
It's, I was just
We
trying to
can't
keep up
just
with
say,
it.
we start tomorrow, we're gonna do this.
Well, we've got till the second Monday in July.
Yeah.
And that's plenty of
The,
notice.
Yeah.
the problem that started the whole thing was that somebody's flowers were thrown away, and there was no notification that there would be a cleanup.
Well,
And so
yeah.
that's what facilitated.
When you look at, of course, I live right by the cemetery, when you look at the difficulties people that do live in that area go through with the things that just blow off of graves and so forth, I mean, we have all kinds of stuff all over the place. But people go up there and decorate for birthdays, and that's not addressed in our ordinance previously.
Easter.
Easter,
Easter,
they decorate for
birthdays,
things.
Easters, anniversaries,
Anniversaries,
and it
yeah.
just goes on and on and on and on. And what is considered a holiday to all of us, there's some, they just put them out there just because, and a lot of it is seasonal, you know. I had a lady say, I put a winter wreath out, and then she'll come and pick it up sometime, and then she'll put a spring wreath out, and then she'll come and pick it up. If we have set days and plenty of notice in advance, I think the way I have it stated here will work in accordance with all the other paragraphs within our ordinance. It puts the control back into this, to our citizens and what they put on their, well, not necessarily what they put on their graves. I think that has to stay the way it is, but it allows them to say, okay, listen, I know that they're gonna be cleaning up the cemetery this time of year. It gives them, it affords them opportunity to go and pick them up and do what they need to do. And even if they wanna turn around the next day and put it back, as long as their flowers, if they're not wilted, they're not turned brown, they're not making a scenery in the cemetery, I have no problem with that. Okay, but there's gonna come a time when they start to fade, and that, all that still is up to us. If we see something that just ain't quite right, or outside the ordinance as far as like pottery or toys and stuff like that, those things we do still take care of. But I'm talking about total cleanup of the cemetery twice a year, and it'll nullify a lot of heartache. One of the questions that I run through my mind when I put this together is the picking up of wreaths and stuff, and why we have to hold those for a period of 30 days. And is it something that's legally binding there, Mr. Rath?
Well, I'm just looking at your ordinance 135-060, decoration of grave regulation. And, you know, it is what it is, and it says, the week before Mother's Day, all the way through the week of Father's Day, Easter, plus Easter, Veterans Day, and Christmas days, they can put them on for 10 days. And then winter wreaths are to be removed at such time as is specified by forfeit rights. You know, plus what you were talking about, no toys, crockery, glassware,
Right.
ammo, shells, baskets are permitted. Yeah, I haven't seen what you wrote, and what you want the ordinance to read, but I'll be glad to look at it. Change the ordinance, or the council.
I'd suggest that, that this committee, or if you want to pass it to the ordinance committee either way, take a look at what's been provided, tweak it as you see fit, get it to Robert, and we do that as soon as we get it back to Robert.
One thing, as Rob pointed out, this gives a clear cut time. This will happen then, this will happen on this day. And it pretty well takes out the guesswork. The only other time it'd be missing is if it disappeared because of weather or it became unsightly, et cetera, so.
And at that time, we pick them up, you know, if the wind blows them or whatnot. And at that time, if, we know pretty much, if it's something that somebody's gonna go out there and spend $50 to $100 on, we're gonna hold that item. We use discretion. But to follow the ordinance after a holiday, it's rough. And there is no clear cut. And there's always gonna be somebody complain. I've even went as far as talking to some, friends of mine in other states and asking them if that run a cemetery, and asking them if they have the same issue. And they said, oh my gosh, Rob, it is everywhere. This same issue goes on, and I even asked them, how do you go about doing yours? And 90% of everybody I talked to set their cemetery the same way, just like what we did with the changing of this.
Ads in the
ordinance.
paper for getting ready to do their annual.
What was your two cleanup dates again?
It would be January 14th, that would take care of the Christmas.
January, July.
January, the second Monday in July would be the second one. That cleanup would take care of anything not picked up after our Memorial Day, Father's Day.
What are you gonna do about Veterans Day?
Veterans Day is so close to,
It'll get picked up in January.
in January, exactly. And like I say, we will always go through the cemetery and pick up things that we see needs to be picked up that are an eyesore.
I'm not disagreeing with what you said. Somebody put something on there for the 4th of July and you take it off a week later and you leave something from Veterans Day till January, they're gonna be on you again.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Like I said, if there is no clear cut, someone's gonna be upset somewhere along the line. Either way, if the same person, if we keep the ordinance the way it is, they go out there and they put a Christmas wreath or a Christmas flower the same day that we put up our Christmas trees, which happens more than you know. And does it mean I gotta pick it up? Well, no, I try to use discretion at that point. But there's always gonna be someone come back to me and say, well, why? The other issue is also, if I were to follow this ordinance the way it says right now, I would have flowers held in my shop from the floor to the ceiling all the way to the door for 30 days. And I'm asking people to come in and say, okay, you can go ahead and pick your flowers out now if you.
How do you know who they are?
Yeah,
I've
it's
never
actually
ever put my name or address.
It's a tough job.
It
I
is
don't
a
envy
tough,
you.
and there is no
But,
clear cut,
yeah.
but I can tell you, I can go by what other cemeteries are doing, just by talking with them, and then try to adjust our ordinance to where that it'll be in the best interest of our community as a whole. Okay?
Does this July date allow you to be able to mow the cemeteries easily? Or, what I'm getting at is, with all these flowers all over everything, it makes mowing around the stones very difficult.
It is, but you gotta think it was during the mowing season, okay? When mowing starts, usually everybody, they're starting to decorate for Memorial Day. That's an issue, that's something that we have to deal with, and we have, even if we have.
And you Easter, Mother's Day,
Yeah,
Father's Day.
if they're
Memorial
all
Day,
the same,
4th of
all the
July.
way up until July fourth. We're gonna have that issue all the way up to July fourth. After July fourth, with this, it'll kind of diminish down a little bit. And then, well, by the time the next holiday comes up around Veterans Day, our mowing's done anyway. It'll be really no different than, it won't be any more of a burden on us mowing the cemetery than what it is now, is what I'm trying to say.
There's a gentleman back there wanted to ask a question.
Does that include the shepherd hooks? My understanding is on the shepherd hooks, you can hang as long as it's not in the way of the mowing or the weeding. And I've been in that situation, the mowing and weeding.
Yes, and a lot of times what's going on the shepherd hooks are wreaths or something like that, and yeah, it works great. And I use discretion. Whenever something's on a shepherd hook, whenever it starts getting faded, or it just looks kind of old and makes the cemetery look kind of tragic,
I agree.
that's when I take them off.
I agree.
But I usually leave those things that are on shepherd hooks and use discretion when it comes to disposing of those.
That's good.
You know, this conversation does make me think that probably ought to codify the discretion aspect of this.
It's on,
Is it?
yeah. Cemeteries reserve the right to remove all flowers, fire plants, some of these are baskets of flowers when they become withered, or for any other reasons, and cemetery employees are ordered to make such removals when in their judgment it is in the best interest of the cemetery.
Very good.
Is there any further questions?
Yeah, you're, reading what you submitted here, it says totally abolish G and replace it with this, but my question is then, the current G allows placing these things during specified times, so if you eliminate that, then they can put things there anytime. And you only have those
That's
two
exactly
cleanup.
right.
Okay,
That's exactly right.
and that's what you're wanting then?
That's exactly right. I wanna be able to put that control back into our citizens' hands, back into their hands. I will still have control by using the discretion part that our ordinance says to take care of any unsightly, unwanted flowers up in the cemetery.
So that's where you can get your argument.
Yeah.
He says, yeah.
It doesn't matter, it's, I'm gonna do it anyway,
Yeah.
either way,
Yeah.
you know,
I think
either
this is
way.
might be